Welcome, my name's Chris and I'm back this week with another lesson for you on strumming. This is especially if you're struggling with strumming. I'm here with 3 overall tips, more intuitions that I'm trying to teach you here versus like specific strum patterns. It's more like how do you strum every song. So these 3 things I'll cover, I'll go in depth more, but we're going to be talking about how to find the pulse of a song, how to find the motion that corresponds to that pulse to move your arm that will make any strumming pattern very simple eventually and really automatic. And then number 3, dynamics, how to incorporate dynamics, how that really adds the qualitative nuance to strumming that we want to hear that will ride the wave of the song perfectly. So okay, number 1, let's start. So we have pulse overall is just describing, of course, like the overall beat of the song, the speed, right? The tempo. So you could parse all these words a million ways, but hopefully you understand what I mean. So initially, especially if you're not rhythmically inclined per se, if you've never played drums or never been interested or tapping your foot or dancing or any of that, you might have to practice finding the pulse more. And you need to practice finding the pulse not only to the songs you play or try to play, but any music you hear. It's just got to be something you do now. And the more you actively do this, it really is kind of like a meditative practice in some ways, just giving your attention to it, right? And like starting to hear and feel the pulse. Eventually it becomes automatic, I promise you. But it does take like really active listening and then also getting your body involved. So you can just practice muting the strings. I really like doing this. It's a good way to practice rhythm because you can just take your left hand out of it. Practice finding the pulse to songs. So if I'm listening to Hey Jude, my kid loves the Beatles these days. So I would just feel, okay, this is my beat, right? And this is gonna be consistent. When we have a consistent beat in music, our brain, something happens. Like that's why it's important to play in time. The like spell of music kind of works, right? So that's a really good practice you can do anywhere, right? You can tap on a steering wheel. I'm guilty of doing this with my blinker. I'll be drumming on the steering wheel and sometimes leave it on and my wife has to tell me to turn it off. So you can do this anywhere, right? Anytime you hear music, really try to like feel the beat. Most music's in groups of 4, right? I'll talk more about that, but 4/4 is kind of the standard thing in Western music, especially. And of course, even for weirder stuff like odd meters or whatever, having an automatic handling of the pulse, meaning that you've kind of employed your body to do this. I challenge you, this is an exercise you can take away from this. Listen to music. Let's say it's another song like, there's this song, Bad Guy by Billie Eilish that I've just started to teach. So that song is like, you know, oh yeah, I'm trying to remember the bass line. But anyways, we have these chords, right? But here's our pulse. Boom, boom. And actually, a nice thing you can take away from the pulse, or at least to know where beat 1 is, which is kind of a little deeper level of the pulse, is to listen to the drums. We often have the snare on 2 and 4, right? So you really are becoming a drummer in some respects when you start to really want to improve your strumming, because this is a percussive instrument as well as harmonic, right? And when we're playing strumming, we're kind of, or when we strum, think of it as just like playing time. So we're kind of providing the rhythm and the harmony at the same time. And we can also provide dynamics and feel and really the vibe of the song if we are open to it. And this is what makes a good guitarist or someone, I don't know, that can do this much more effective and dynamic than someone who can't, who sees like strumming as just like this thing they should do a certain way. There's just not much deviation for that, right? And instead, we're going to talk about how to play organically here. So find the pulse. It will be automatic eventually. So if you're playing a song like, I think I mentioned Hey Jude. So on that song, practice moving your arm. And this actually gets us into number 2 with this. So the motion. We have to figure out what kind of motion is organic that kind of provides the needed resistance. That's kind of how to think about motion. If a song gets slower, you tend to see 2 down motions work better per beat than 1. So on Hey Jude's a good example. So this is right down 1. This practice moving your arm like this is good, right, to match the arm movement. When we get into motion too, not only the pulse feel, right, hopefully you can feel this, it becomes automatic, but also the motion does. So this is just something my body is perpetually doing, and tap my foot too, right? So, but on Hey Jude, it works a little bit better if you do 2, because then I can double up on this with the ups, right? And those would be 16th notes. So I'm kind of playing 8th notes here, 1 and 2, and I'm kind of staggering them, if you can kind of hear. So get the guitar in the camera, or my right hand. I'm kind of doing like a strong, weak, to kind of hear the main beat. The overall intuition I'm trying to get across here is that your arm motion should just keep on going. And really, it doesn't matter if you're playing very little. Sometimes I'll play a song and I'll go, and I just keep my arm going. Maybe my foot tapping, but I can do it without this, or without the foot, right? So just kind of keep the thing in your, the beat in your arm motion. And before you know it, it will be like automatically there, and you'll kind of rely on it as an extension. And this like kind of body language too is super important in a band, to make a band really gel and everyone's on the same pulse and they're kind of constantly checking in, right? So that motion I would mess with like on really slow strumming. Let's say I have a song like this. If I'm playing I Will Always Love You, I have that song randomly came to me. So if I went 1, 6, right? So this strumming feels really good like this to me, because I could strum more. Right. So that's really full, and I can kind of engage it. I can go, and it's just right there. It's the same thing as this. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down. So, and I've got access to any of that. That's what the organic part's about. So when you start to get really good strumming intuition, and just practice making noise, right? I'm just muting the guitar. You have to, don't be afraid for it to feel weird or loud or brash, especially with a pick. You don't have to use a pick. It's really more about your arm and your overall touch, right? Getting really free and not having to work on another song, right? So this is where, as a teacher, I realize we can often just like give too much to students, or students might not even know how to divide things up. But when you take out the chords, you can really work on your right hand. And often our attention is limited, so we have to really focus our attention with practice and focus, don't be afraid to take one bite at a time. That's really the best way to practice anyway. So if you take out the chords, then I've got this strumming that can really work. I could work on it in a weird meter. I do this sometimes. I might practice, this is like 7. I lost it. I was trying to do it the same pattern twice. So I'll just work on it like that, just so I can hear it. And this is really, learning drums, essentially. I think the deeper you go with strumming, the more rhythmically inclined you are, and you can really feel the pulse of a song. Let's say it's a song that's really quick, like, what's that song, Take On Me? That's a really great one, right? So, right, kind of quick. So now, this is my beat. So I'm moving my hand just 2 times per beat. So, or no, actually 1 time per beat, sorry. So now I've got a natural down. If I want to go more, right, I've got the ability to fill that up with 8th notes. And I don't have to play, I can play less, right? I could go, what's the chords? 2, 3, 4. Right, I could play a lot less, and that feels really good to have that spectrum. So everyone starts off like here, very static, like you kind of learn how to play a song, right? And it's you're like just trying to do it all. You're not trying to improve, nor do you know how to improve how your chords sound or strumming or whatever. And then once you start working on this and you start getting a little like dissatisfied or bored with the way you play, then you can start to do stuff like this, like really focus on one thing. Focus on your arm movement. Go really push yourself. So play some faster music that you're not used to, and watch the band play, like watch their arm movement. That's really helpful. Play with other people. And I tell students, this is my overall 2-second distillation of all this. I tell them there's one rule in strumming, it's just keep your arm moving to the beat. And realize you don't have to play anytime. You can just like have your strings skip. I could go. And I can make this strumming really small, which segues into number 3. Dynamics are everything. Dynamics are like seasoning to food. So, right, so like really, right, like really stretch that. See how quietly you can play, see how loud you can play, see how really in touch with a song you can be when you're learning a song. So for even songs that don't have guitar, right, like still music, we can still play it. Why not? In fact, it might sound cool because there's like a space for you. So we're just trying to match the overall energy of the song, right? And that's dynamics are a huge part of that. It could also be how little or much I strum. So I could go, here's a good example, Just What I Needed, this Cars song. I'll play it at, I guess, an F sharp. I don't think it's the original. Oh, it's an E maybe. I'll try an E. So if I'm going like, whatever, I'm trying to remember it all. And I've got the kind of the drum, I've got the accent. Right. Whatever the thing is. But I want to be like, I gotta feel that groove, and I'm also like, when it's bigger, I'm gonna be more like ringing chords, right? Or whatever is a, there's like a really cool little riff there. So I'm trying to really match the energy of the song, and you can actually do that with no chords. You could just go, and also finding that dynamic range, like, oh, I can just play a few strings. I could put my right palm mute. So I kind of bounce off the strings when I palm mute a little bit, like every beat. So that's something you can mess with. This all requires a willingness to sound bad, right? And to realize, hey, this is gonna feel weird. This is a physical motion. The more I teach guitar, the more I sound like a yoga instructor to myself, because I often come back to like, this is experiential stuff and physical stuff, just as much as mental, maybe more so. Because when you're getting an automatic intuition like this, like strumming, like it's basically like how do you dribble a ball, right? It's a very similar idea. That has to be automated. You can't think about it. You have to find something that's flexible, that you can go faster, slower, less, more. Is really embodies a whole song, right? And it embodies you playing automatically. This is stuff I wish I had the language for years, like teaching all these previous students. So many times I see like they were kind of afraid of strumming. You can be afraid of the sound of your instrument. And if you're identifying with the sound, especially if you're like, oh, this is me, and just realize it's like, whatever, make weird noises. I'm actually on a video on this to just kind of get out of your comfort zone with the instrument and not take it so seriously. So it's okay to make some clunkers, right? Because you learn a lot from that. And taking a chord, and I'm getting away from myself, but with strumming, there's lots of ways you can kind of challenge yourself and like grow. With strumming, I think it's really, just to review real quick, practice finding the pulse in every kind of song you hear. It doesn't matter if it's like, it's like Skype is like, something like that. My wife's computer was going off the other day, and I just heard that, and I'm hearing the harmony or the numbers of the scale, like 1 5 1 7 5, right? And I hear that. I try to practice that all the time. But that pulse, there's like a pulse there, right? And you can feel it like one, like half of that. You could really kind of split hairs here. We're just trying to get that pulse like automatically seen, right, and felt. And then that goes into the motion. You have to make it in your body. So like I played jazz drums and 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, right? That's like what makes it sound like 3 4 1. So I just gotta, that as a drummer, I have to be like, that's my foot's job. I can't think about it. Like it's got to be in my body. And that is something that is actually adaptable to even slowing down and speeding up, and like in musical situations. It's got to be automated though. And if you have trouble with strumming, this is probably the stuff you've never heard, right? That strumming should be automatic. It should just be like here. If I'm strumming Wonderwall, right, there's a song. And I'm trying to sound the drums. Imagine someone else playing. Right? I want to be, and then like when I want to get bigger, I should really play here. I can have more, and it's a mixture between like providing the harmony, which sometimes you want it to ring out, especially if the cymbals would be like kind of on a wet sound, like a ride cymbal or a crash. So you really are mirroring the drums. That's how I see strumming. And like, go all in with that, right? Become a drummer. Like, don't be afraid of the sound of the instrument, and to be like, practice dynamics. Like, see how little you can strum. See how like chill of a strum pattern you can make. Like, maybe don't use a pick. Use your nails. And I have accents, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And of course you can make this even smaller and practice with your fingers. But strumming, we can talk about finger picking and all that. Even if you're finger picking at any level, up to strumming, up to banging on your guitar like a drum, you have to feel the beat, you have to feel the pulse, figure out the motion that you need to kind of automate. And that's kind of the current your arm just goes at the entire time, even if you don't play. You'll see a lot of pro guitarists just move their arm like this. And of course, when you have this such in your body like this, you can break the rules of all these. You can sometimes play with less dynamics or less dynamic difference, right? And then you can play with the motion changing, like where you're going, or you're kind of like stopping your arm motion, which is like generally the worst thing you could do. You can break this rule, right? But it has to be in your body for it to be automated and breakable, if that makes sense. And then finally, yeah, practice finding the pulse. Practice like feeling groups of 4, right? Because most music is from 4. The only thing I didn't cover today with the motion thing is that some strumming might have a 3 division per beat. So this is pretty common on like popular music today, like this. So you might start like, listen to where the snare drum was. 1, 2. It might be like that. It might be quicker. Something like that. So it just depends on the groove, and you can always see like how if something else feels better, right? But you have to really approach it as a drummer, and that 3 groove is something else you'll hear. Really divisions of 2 per beat, like 1/8 notes is typical, and then maybe or 4 per beat. That's where you're moving down 2 times per beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like that, that's right. And that can work great for slow tempos. And then for faster tempos, if you start to go real fast with this, it starts to turn into like punk, and that has a lot of energy. But if you alternate that, changes it, right? And then, so of course they're both good to be able to do. So the faster you go, like medium to kind of fast range, you'll see more just motion like this. Or if you want that real energetic thing, that's great. But you definitely want to make sure that motion's sustainable overall. And sometimes I'll even mix it up. If I'm on the fence, I might go like this. All right, because I get the best of both worlds. I get the kind of groove of this, and then also the build that I can do with all downs. So hopefully this has been a good lesson for you. If you are afraid of strumming or if it eludes you, I would not underestimate how much like personal fear and like not accepting your own sound as a musician can factor into these troubles. So don't be afraid to make some weird noises. It doesn't matter. There's another thing. No one will get hurt, right? I feel like lots of people need to hear this today. I did, right? I thought music was like all that too much, and it made music really hard. So don't be afraid to get a pick. I recommend using a pick and practice tiny strumming. Practice when you watch TV, right? Practice it like, get your head out of it. It's not a head thing, it's a body thing. It really is a body intuition. And once you kind of come to accept that, you will be so much better for it. And it's something that should be automated. That's another giant thing here. The pulse can be automated. The motion will be automated. It'll just be subconscious. You'll just, if you practice moving your arm to the beat a lot, you try to make that an ethic that you kind of always do, and you, not even when you don't play, like, you know, just kind of feeling the beat, right? It's just like a drummer does this. Keys, did this as a keyboardist, I do it as a bassist. It communicates to others that you're playing music with that you are all on the same wavelength, right? And then finally, dynamics really increase your upper and lower dynamics and your ability to change the feel. And it's not just how quietly or loud you play, but how much you play, right? So I can play like even less and be really big because the chords have a lot of time to ring. Or maybe I want a little bit of both, or maybe it's like playing a lot but very quietly. So everything in between there, explore. And that comes back to, you know, this is going to feel awkward at first, and it's going to feel weird to play loud. And if you tell yourself, I want to be a dynamic player that really matches the energy of the song and supports the song, then you'll be like really fun to play music with, right? And it's just this infectious thing that I think we all know. We've all seen players like that, right? They're just like, there are famous people that do this, and there are people, everyday people, that just get lost in the music, and they're very inspiring to be around, and everyone else will be better for it too, musically. So, okay, until next time, let me know if you have any questions on strumming. I will see you, though, for another lesson next week, and make sure and like and subscribe and all that. If you would like me to make more things, I'm making lots of videos here, and I'm trying to get to the heart of some intuitions I've never like heard anyone else talking about, for one, as a teacher, and also things that really empower students, and things I've seen work for students now. So I'll pass them along to you. So until next time, I'll see you.